Greetings, geeks. This is Mike, and we're getting the band back together.
Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Gavin.
So, Mike, what would you like to start off with today on our 50th episode?
Episode 50.
Good Lord.
I know we've been
We've
talking this
been doing this for a while. Well, the current topic is She-Hulk, and we all rambled a little bit last week about that.
Well, you
And
two
has
did.
everyone watched
I did
episode
not.
2? You haven't watched it yet?
Oh,
Or
I
you didn't
watched all
ramble?
of it. I did not ramble.
Right,
He
you're
refused-
busy playing video games.
Yeah,
I watched that podcast.
I did too. So,
So, Trevor, you're good at recaps.
all right.
Give
So
us a
this
recap of episode 2.
episode 2 was titled Superhero Law. And this is where so Jennifer Walters has basically gained notice of the public after defeating Titania. They have dubbed her She-Hulk, a name which she pretty much despises.
And I hate that. Let me cut in there real quick. I know we should do commentary afterwards, but I hate it when they chirp the comic book material. I hate it. That's like She-Hulk. That's such a stupid name. It's your show, chick.
Yeah,
Okay,
but she
continue.
probably wanted something that's not derivative of the Hulk. But anyways,
Yeah, but you are a derivative. Deal with it.
So this big case that she was working on gets a mistrial because the defense argued that her fight and her being a superhero influenced the jury because she kind of saved them when she caught a table that would have turned them into, strawberry jelly.
To be fair, that
and
did happen. So yeah.
Yeah. So then she gets fired from the DA's office. And
That's
then,
not really her fault. As
it's
Daredevil would say, I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah, she is. But so she gets fired from the DA's office and then proceeds to go to place after place after place, getting the quality level going down with each interview to the point where it's like this gray office with gray filing cabinets with horrible lighting. And they're all like,
I did like the color correction as it went through scene to scene.
Yeah, cool. They just making it worse and worse. So she can't find anything. And then she's offered a position by the people that she was prosecuting against, GLK&H, and they want her to defend Emil Blonsky, the Abomination. And she realizes this might be a conflict of interest because the Abomination, this is where they acknowledge the Hulk movie, the Norton Hulk movie, saying that, her cousin and the Abomination had this big fight and they tried to kill each other and yada, yada. But when she meets Blonsky in his, in the Tim Roth form, which was nice. And he goes on about, how he writes haiku now and he's made his peace and all this other stuff. And you can see when she's going so they pumped you full of super soldier serum to do this and you weren't in control of yourself. And he doesn't say he wasn't in control, but he glances forward to, he wants to make reparations to all his victims. And he's written all these haikus and he just wants to live his life. He doesn't want to be in prison more. And so Walters, she calls up Banner and, they're on the phone and he's like, you're just calling me to tell me you're going to take the case. And she's like, yeah, I'm calling you to take the case. And that's where we find out that Banner or Smart Hulk, he is on the Sicarian ship flying to Destination Unknown, which might be a good way to set up World War Hulk. Fingers crossed. Anyways, and so she's all set to take this case and then found out that Blonsky had escaped from prison and was participating in a fight club as witnessed in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. They even use, so this is where we're going to get the Wong angle coming in, because that's how he escaped prison, was Wong probably teleported him out to go fight. So it's a nice way of kind of integrating it into the MCU and pulling in the various things. And as a side note, when she is scrolling on her computer and she's on BuzzFeed, there's two little side blurbs, and one of them is man with metal claws in bar fight. Well, that's not really hard to figure out who that is. And the second one talks about the giant marble statue sticking out of the Indian Ocean, hence the celestial from the Eternal. So they're using this show as a nice way to kind of tie some of this stuff together from the movies that don't feel as connected. This is some of the glue to kind of join some things together, which I think is a nice way of doing it. And I'm going to address something that you had said last week, Mike. You didn't like the way that they had introduced her origin story.
Yeah, I stick to that.
I agree, but I also disagree. There would have been no way to do her on a case where she gets shot and Banner's there to save her, because at this point, he's this in the Smart Hulk form. He would not willingly give his blood, because if you jump back to the Norton version, where he is so deathly afraid of any of his blood getting released because it's so toxic.
I mean, Stanley almost died.
Yes, and such ramifications. They needed a way for him to be injured in a way that there would be a blood transfer that he had no control over, or he had no way to prevent it.
I'm going to counter you with that, because I think you can do that if he is Smart Hulk.
Mhm.
So if Smart Hulk reverted to Banner, he's trying to protect his cousin. It's like, look, she's in danger.
He would still
These
not.
mafia goons are going to gun her down. She gets shot.
He would still not let any of
there's
his
a
blood
way.
out.
There's a way to make it work. If
No,
he
no.
knew, it's like, look, I know her DNA can handle this. This is the only way to
That's
save
just
her
it.
life.
He didn't until he ran the test afterwards. Which honestly, this also ties up a neat little bow of the leader. So back in the Norton movie, I can't think of the actor's name. Troy will pull it up. He's the one, Stearns, who's working with Banner to try to get him to control the Hulk form and be able to control his regression. And there's this whole fight, and he gets falls down, gets knocked on the head, and some of the serum falls on. And you can see through the cut, his head starting to bulge, and hinting that he would eventually become the character of the leader. This show neatly says, well, why don't we have seen the leader? Because his blood is practically like lethal to anyone whose body can't handle the extra gamma radiation that comes with it. Jennifer is, as she put it, she 1 in a million or 1 in a billion of the people out there who can handle it. Now, this might mean,
so I'm better than you?
No, it's just, things she's taking. I think some of that "I'm better than you" back and forth. It's just like banter between cousins.
That cringes me so much. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I don't see that as anything but the two cousins who've been competing against each other for like their entire childhood.
Neither of them have siblings.
What the hell? Let's get into this right now.
But I'm going to say,
it drives me crazy because it makes She-Hulk seem like an idiot. She's supposed to be this smart attorney, and
she's competitive.
How much time we got? A few minutes before this one ends, so I'm going to go on a rant. So the Hulk has already joined the Avengers, saved the Earth. He's had some issues. He's stomped some cities and smashed some things, but he's ultimately defeated Thanos. And he should be a hero. Huh?
Thanos defeated him, but
no,
Thanos gave
he was part of the team that got rid of Thanos. He beat him up in fisticuffs, but eventually Smart Hulk got an Infinity Gauntlet and undid everything. So he was part of the team that whooped Thanos' ass.
Okay.
So so I'm better than you? It's like, have you defeated Thanos? No. Shut up.
I'm putting that back to if they were growing up together in any sort of because the thing is, Banner has no siblings, and Walters has no siblings that we know of so far that they haven't introduced. So as cousins, as only child cousins, when they get together, they would act like siblings. There would be that rivalry. Now, imagine competing against someone who has like 7+ PhDs. Yeah, sure, you're
exactly smart. Even without the Hulk serum and without defeating Thanos.
But
so I'm better than you? No.
Think of your relationship with your siblings, Mike. Did you ever get competitive with them?
I did, and I always whooped them.
Yeah.
No, that's not always true.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is something with that. I did like the banter, but when it went off script, weird feminist kind of writing, that stuff just triggers me, especially when it doesn't make any sense. Now, I did love when they were doing not the "I'm better than you" banter. When that stuff happened, I thought it was very enduring, and I liked the relation between the two characters. Another one was when she did the whole rant, and it's funny because I posted some things on the Facebook group with the whole, I know how to control my anger because I've been catcalled and I have to deal with these things. I could literally be murdered, and you've never had to deal with this before. But if you go back to First Avengers, is like, hey, Banner, now might be the time to get angry. That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. That shows that he's been dealing with anger issues this entire time. And if he hulks out, he destroys cities.
But the thing is,
dude,
Banner has never had to deal. He wasn't in like before he became the Hulk. It's not like he was in the science community as a woman who's automatically looked down on.
But he already said, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
He's always angry, but we don't. He never says
anger issues that he's been dealing with his entire life.
But the thing is, his anger issues that he's been dealing with may stem from a completely different source other than his gender. I mean, I see how women are treated like in the workforce. Or just, I mean, I hear Mayor's colleagues. It's just like male nurses are looked down on because nursing is supposed to be a female job and doctoring is supposed to be a male job. And when you see some of these doctors, especially listening to them when we go to the various parties and they're talking about, oh, well, I was dealing with this doctor, but she just doesn't know what she's talking about. Even though this woman has 20 plus years experience doing that job, she's dismissed because she doesn't have something dangling between her legs. And
really? Do they do that?
Yeah, they do. And so
I don't want to go to that hospital.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I could see Walter's, struggling that, she probably pushed herself all the way through law school, getting the highest marks and all that sort of stuff. And then we see her family life when she goes to visit her family, and they're all praising the blackfuster, the fuckwit of a whatever he was, the son-in-law, wherever it was. Yeah, I'm a manager for Best Buy, and they're like, that's like setting the bar at ankle fucking height. If your cause of celebration is that he's a manager at a Best Buy, and you're like,
well, especially when Bruce Banner is your cousin.
Exactly. You got Bruce Banner, and you've got Walters, who's like, kick-ass lawyer, but you're singing his praises for being the manager of a Best Buy.
But that's where the storytelling just grinds me, because it's pushing, in my opinion, a political agenda rather than getting into actual storytelling.
No, I completely.
All right, go, Gavin. You got 2 minutes before this shuts down.
Hit it, Gavin. Hit it. Feminine bullshit. Okay, absolutely not. Every single woman that I have lived with, every single woman who's had a career that I've worked with, has had men mansplaining every single thing to them, treating her like, oh, just a woman. Every single one of them. And this is how women live in this world. And and the only people complaining about woke feminist agendas are white middle-aged men complaining about woke feminist agenda. I'm sorry,
that's actually
I
not true.
Reject
that's
that.
why I put Young Rip in last episode, because that's a thing that contrasts that. And also the Nerdrotic group, they have a bunch of females and things, so it's not just
by
white,
and large
middle-aged men.
it's mostly white males complaining about it.
What are you saying? I'm better than you? No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke.
Listeners, if you're listening, that is a joke. You chalk that up to put that in the joke column. Yeah, take that out of the truth column and put them in the joke column. There we go. We're good. We're good.
Thank you, Trevor.
You're welcome. Just moderating this a little bit.
What I will, one of the things now, I'm sure we've got a lot of opinions on how the story went. I liked how the story went. To me, it felt exactly what I was hoping for when they announced She-Hulk 4 years ago, something like that. One of the things that really, really, really made me happy was that the bit at the end, the after credit stuff, where she's picking up the damn fridge for her mother to clean under. She's picking up the car so that they could change a tire. And she's just got this pure John Byrne-esque style look on her face from the Sensational She-Hulk comic series. Just like she's bored. She could be doing something so much more with her powers, and she's helping her family change tires and clean under fridges. Absolutely perfect incarnation of the feel of the comic book. It just felt exactly right. What I wanted from the comic, what I got from the show, it was just, to me, it was this perfect mesh.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Now the thing is I listened to your segment, Mike, and I listened to what was his name again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Young Rippa. I'm going to go on record now saying I despise the term the MCU.
I think
I love it, but
I
because
absolutely
it sums up so much. But
hold
okay,
on,
tell me
hold
why you
on.
hate it. I want to
Let me say my piece, and then you can say what you want after.
Yeah, go for it.
I think people who use that term are cowards. You have to realize half of this planet is female. If you can't accept that for every male hero, there could be a female hero, if you have to push them down and say, well, they can't be as powerful as the male heroes, I pity you. I really do.
I can't wait to respond.
The only emotion I can give you is absolute fucking pity. Yes, I mean, right now the MCU is promoting more the more powerful females to, try to play catch up. When you look at, up until the point of, even Endgame, when they did the whole the feminism run with all the female heroes taking on Thanos, there still wasn't that many of them. Like, not really. And none of them, I mean, only one or two of any sort of league of Thanos, or even any of the other heroes like Thor, or the rest of the cast and crew sort of thing. So they're having to find that parity. In some ways, at the same time, I feel they're going too fast. They're trying to throw it all at once and hope all of it sticks, and then complain when it doesn't. But on the flip side of that, when you get, I'm going to put it may be a stereotype of the basement dwelling neckbeards that scream and rail that there's no way that Captain Marvel can be as powerful as Thor because she's a woman and that's Thor, or it's no fair that this hero's female now, or they've decided to do a gender swap. I honestly don't care what actor or actress they put in a role, as long as they're true to the character. I don't care if they get a man, woman, black, white, Chinese, kumquat, houseplant, house cat, whoever fits the role best. So when I hear people talk about, oh, it's the MCU because now they're pushing all these female heroes, all I can think of is, how's virginity treating you so far? Because if you rail at it that hard and that badly that, oh no, it's a female hero this time. You got to remember, I mean, yeah, Marvel Comics doesn't have a lot of female heroes because it was started by white guys a long, long time ago. 90%.
Okay, I gotta chime in before you go too far, Trevor, because you hit a whole lot of points that I have to hit.
All right, go ahead and address them.
Okay, for me, I like the whole MCU, even though the nerdrotic guys go pretty far with just like slamming everything. But that term, I think, sums up to me this idea that I'm seeing in the whole next wave of Marvel, where they have to denigrate the old generation of things. They have to denigrate the old characters, the old heroes, and to try and elevate the feminine version of the character. Now, I disagree with what you said about how you just bash any female character that's powerful, because Wonder Woman, the original one, anyway, that Patty Jenkins directed, Gal Gadot, I think that was one of the most powerful female characters, especially superhero characters,
but I'm going to say,
of all time, because it kept the feminine.
But when she first appeared in that horrible Batman v Superman movie, and even in her own film, the amount of hate that the DC and just comic book fan base in general threw at that film, just because it was a woman. And
really? Okay. Maybe I don't go on as many forums as you. I just look at things through my own viewpoint. But for me, that one, there's so much stuff in that movie that I thought captured the feminine, right? So you have a very strong female character, like almost unlimited power. The whole, what's his name, Steve Trevor, that's one thing. If I was directing that movie, I wouldn't know how to do that. I would go the Frank Miller route. It's like, yeah, obviously she'd shake Superman because, like, yeah, that's what you do. But you saw what the feminine interest was in that character. So he was part of this foreign world, and she was trying to understand it, and he was the gateway, and he's this charming, handsome man, and they'd never seen men before, and the way she directed that movie and told that story was so powerful. And there were so many great moments, like where she has ice cream for the first time, and the way she's kind to children. So it captures that feminine, but then she goes and just absolutely kicks ass to the point where they're in the trenches in World War One, and she charges forward and inspires all the men to go with her. For me, that was one of the most powerful, iconic moments of a female character in film, like next to Galadriel in Lord of the Rings. So for me, those are those feminine archetypes that are very powerful. And if you can capture that, it's amazing. But when you have to do something like She-Hulk, where it's constantly, well, I guess I'm better than you. Oh, so I can do this better than you, and I'm better than you. And then Hawkeye's like, well, now I'm better than you. And it just keeps going and going. It gets under my skin. And as far as neck beards, I don't have a beard. And as far as getting laid, well, I have lots of children. So I, those point of views don't
But
offend
do
me
you
in any
dwell
way.
in a basement?
Only for the day job, but yes.
No, it's just I've been to enough forums that I'm getting tired of hearing these guys railing against, oh, why are they doing yet another Superman movie instead of doing and a female, and it's like, because half the population of this planet are girls, are female.
You know what? Here, let's do a fun game. Let's do a work round. I said some of the female archetypes that I think are good heroes. So if you were to pick a strong female character,
Harlequin,
like,
but not on film. If she had her, this is a post I just recently read. Someone went like a huge rant about how they can't, like, every time that DC puts out a female hero, or specifically an anti-hero, they have to put them in a team because it doesn't work for a female to be by herself. And someone said, well, Harlequin works. And he's like, this guy went on this huge rant. And then someone said, have you seen the HBO series? The guy admitted he didn't even know it existed, even though it's in its third season. It's like, maybe you need to stop, get away from the keyboard, and go to the TV and watch a little bit of that.
Harley Quinn even actually had an episode making fun of that exact same mindset.
Yeah, it's, as I said,
and Harley Quinn. Oh wait, I'm just gonna cut you off real quick, Trevor. But Harley Quinn's really neat because she started out as a sidekick character, right? So she was like second fiddle to Joker, but the character elevated herself to the point where she can hold her own. And so I think that's a very strong character. It's an evil anti-hero villain type character, but strong.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
Just as anti-hero was kind of like Deadpool is, like, does heroic things, but only when it's in their own self-interest. Like, won't save the cat out of the tree unless the cat's maybe wearing a nice diamond collar that would look real nice.
Or things like that. So cute and cuddly.
No, screw the cat. She just wants the diamond on the necklace. No, but it's I've as I said, I've gone to enough of these forums where people are railing. There's a huge forum about how there's no way that Captain Marvel is as powerful as Thor. And people who just can't accept the idea. I mean, other people have put on posts of, like, where her powers are coming from versus where Thor's powers coming from. And they're like, I don't care. It's a woman. She can't be as powerful. And that's their whole argument, is because she's a woman, she can't be as powerful.
I don't read those forums, so I don't know what those stories are. And for me, the Captain Marvel movie was a combination of retconning the origin story, which triggered me, and it was just kind of like this weak acting. And
the thing is, I mean, Captain Marvel is such a huge backstory. You would spend 2.5 hours,
and she wasn't wearing a bathing suit with a sash. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's much later.
That should have been in the movie at some point.
But the thing is,
for a pool scene.
To get into Captain Marvel, you have to bring the X-Men in, or at least Rogue, and that's a whole bigger can of worms they couldn't get into. So I can see why for films, I mean, I look at it as that's why the MCU is different than mainstream comics, because there's stuff they can't do, like Miss Marvel and the whole Inhuman Terrigen Mist stuff. They didn't have enough episodes to get into that, and frankly, no one wants to go back to the whole Inhuman storyline anyway. I mean, it's still going to take at least a full decade to wash the stain of that out of people's memories. That was television at its absolute fucking worst. That was
didn't even watch it. I'll take your word for it.
It was the brainchild of someone who was fired and going to do a giant fuck you to everyone in general. That's all I look at that series as. It was someone who was just very bitter, knowing that they were being fired, and figured, how much damage can I cause before I'm finally booted out the door? That's the only way, because if someone was doing that with earnestness, oh no, that person has some issues. But yeah, so that's why, like, when I was going through some of the stuff, and every time, like in other podcasts, people say the MCU and then kind of give a self little giggle about it. And I'm like, you're really just digging a fucking hole for yourself every time. And eventually it's going to get deep enough that someone's just going to push you in and pull the dirt over top and plant the tombstone.
I like the term.
You could like the term
because it sums up. It's a way to, I guess, like it's a synopsis of the things that I see going on. The whole denigrating the male hero to elevate the female. If you're going on equal terms, you should be able to elevate both at the same time.
The thing is also a lot of the characters that we're used to, we're comfortable with, are having to be phased out because the actors and actresses don't want to play that role for the next decade or two.
And that's fine with phasing them out. I have no problem with that. Did you see that article? I forget what. Geez, I should have done my research, but there's an article saying with the writer, and so it's a female writer talking about the series and talking about the jokes in She-Hulk. And I honestly thought most of the jokes in She-Hulk were pretty bad, but Marvel would stop them anytime they would do something too derogatory against the history of the Marvel universe. I'm thinking, geez, they cut out stuff like that because so many of the stuff was just bashing it. And the stuff that made it in was enough to trigger me. So I'm just thinking, what were all these jokes, quote unquote, that they were putting in? And oh man, I'm going to get myself in trouble. But there's a thing with like female comedy where it is that where you can, it's like jabbing and poking and attacking and thinking it's funny because I'm cute and haha, everybody loves me. But that's not like real comedy. Like real comedy is where you can find the little funny bits. And Orville is a perfect example where they're able to find the funny bits of Star Wars and Star Trek and all these types of sci-fi and modern culture and everything that's going on in the world and find the funny bits and actually make it funny. But with She-Hulk, in my opinion, it was kind of a lot of ranting and poking, and like even with the name She-Hulk, the amount of times they made a joke like, oh my God, what a stupid name. It's like, hey, I actually liked that comic as a kid. Like, don't poke fun
well,
of
I think
the name.
part of it is imagine you break onto the scene as a hero and they called you like the bald guy. And you're like, that's not who I am. She doesn't want to get labeled as She-Hulk. She will probably in her mind want something witty and sophisticated because she's a lawyer, but they instead focused on the fact that she's a female and she kind of like the Hulk.
I kind of see it as like, hey, you're One Punch Man. It's like, okay,
yeah. Now something that oh God, I didn't lose my train of thought. I can still feel it rumbling around the tracks.
Gavin, find it.
Yeah, no, it's so Wakanda Forever is just around the corner. We're like 2 months away. And there is a growing movement of people hashtagging not my Iron Man because they're going to be introducing Ironheart like Riri Williams. Because RDJ, he's done. He's done with the whole MCU. He is moving on to other projects. He has no interest in coming back playing Tony Stark or Iron Man in pretty much any capacity. So they're like, all right, we're going to introduce Ironheart as kind of like the successor to Iron Man. And there's, as I said, there's a growing movement of people with the hashtag not my Iron Man. I'm like, the movie's not even out yet. We don't know in what capacity she's going to be in the film. Give it a fucking chance already.
Now, okay, I will jump in. Like that character was introduced back when Marvel was doing the whole diversity movement. This was under Disney, if I remember right. And this is when all the characters were going through radical changes. And now I will say her first cover looked freaking awesome. That comic book, like I wasn't interested in the story at all. I knew they were doing the gender swap and everything else thing, but it was an amazing cover. And so I have that screenshotted and saved because it looked awesome.
There's a female engineer. I've seen her stuff on YouTube, and she is a big fan of Iron Man and Ironheart. And so using her engineering training, she has 3D printed and milled and created a variety of working functional Iron Man suits. Like, the various compartments open, the helmet opens and closes, the eyes glow, it gets the hands to there's like a spray, it comes out and looks like it's firing off repulsor. These things look fucking amazing. And she has made a variety of Iron Man suits and a couple of Ironheart suits. And her inspiration for all this was Riri Williams' Ironheart, because when she was up to the point where figuring out what she wanted to do with her life, that's when those comic books were hitting, and she's like, oh, so there you can have a female Iron Man. Well, that's interesting, and that's what's kind of led her through becoming an engineer, and her side passion of doing cosplay with these amazing armor suits that she builds for these conventions and stuff. If you get a chance, go online, check these out. These things are probably, I would say, this is sort of things that when they're doing the costuming for these movies, instead of having them to wear the stupid motion capture pajamas, they should have hired her to build these costumes, because she can like bend down and touch her toes while wearing these. They're completely movable and functional, and has all the different elements that can move and interact. It would look better than two guys wearing their pajamas in a sleepover. If you see,
that's awesome. How do you find that?
I looked it online, and it was through YouTube. Initially, it was like a little feed came up like, "Ooh, check this out," and I just followed it back. I'll try to get the research and find her name and give you the YouTube links to it. It's incredible, the stuff that she's doing.
Okay, cool.
Everything looks screen accurate, like cinema level ready. And I'm like, why the hell have has like Weta or one of those companies not hired her to make these suits for these different films? Because they're just fucking awesome looking. And I always prefer the practical suits. Like in the first movie, Downey wore, like, most of it was a practical, and some of the second movie, but from the Iron Man 3 on, more often than not, he was just wearing the motion capture pajamas.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the dance scene in Iron Man 2? When
Yeah.
he's dancing around in the armor?
Yeah.
This was when they switched over from like metallic, like actual metal suits, to 3D printed plastic suits, like using filament. And it was so light in comparison to the original one. Robert Downey Jr. was able to do all these like moves that he wouldn't have been able to do in the first one.
Yeah, and it's when you look at her suits, they look like it's metal because they're like very metallic looking, but it's like, yeah, 3D printed plastic. But she's worked out how to make them very articulate, and so that you can actually move in them. Because there's a very famous picture of Robert Downey Jr. and what his name escapes me, the guy who plays War Machine, standing in this at basically the final confrontation, and they're just wearing like the little bits of the helmet and then the 3D motion capture pajamas, and the caption is, "Without the special effects, it looks like two guys on a sleepover, play acting." And the thing is, to me, the CG suits, while they look good, it just doesn't match the quality of the one that's physically there on set. It's close, but it's still enough that it jars me out of the moment.
Yeah, that's why the Mark III is my favorite still.
So if you want to check out these suits, look up Emily the Engineer on YouTube, and you get to see all of her iterations, and because she builds other props, but mainly it's Iron Man suits, and you get to see all the iterations of the suits that she's built. And sometimes she'll go through and show you like how she had like engineering issues she had to resolve, because to make it work, it wouldn't look like it does in the film, but then she figures out a workaround to make it look like it does in the film and actually work at the same time. So yeah, at one point she curses CGI like, "You make it look so easy." It's not, because something has to fit in there. My head.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she doesn't have like a ton of videos so far, but she's got enough. And yeah, she even goes through like some of the stuff they do and how she gets it to look the way it does. So automotive paint is a big one. So Emily the Engineer on YouTube. You can check it out.
And now back to Ironheart. Like when she shows up in this next movie, like no matter what all these trolls on forums say, if it's a good story and it's done well, I don't have a problem with that. But if they start doing it's like, oh yeah, I'm so much better than Tony Stark. Oh, I can do all the things he could never do. I will be completely outraged. So then I'll be starting to say, "Damn you, MCU." But if it's a good story, I mean, that's the thing with these kind of things, story trumps all. And I'm fine with strong female characters. Fine with all that kind of stuff, as long as it's done well. I still think Cara Dune in Mandalorian was one of the best Disney princesses, and they fired her, because she had something to say, like she spoke her mind. So while they're tooting, strong female characters, but then firing probably the strongest female Disney princess they ever had, who could rip a person's arm off if she wanted to, I just get cringed out by it. So that's what I got to say about that. Now back to She-Hulk, which started this whole thing. There's a couple great moments, because I did have so many issues with this to the point where I almost didn't want to keep watching. But where Jennifer was talking with Abomination, I thought that was a great moment. And the fact that he said Bruce
Tim
Banner
Roth
a haiku.
Tim Roth any scene he's in, he just takes control of it.
Yeah.
He was so sympathetic and like in his facial expression, and you're like, yeah, maybe he has changed. And then you're like, wait a second, I saw him in the fight in the fight in Shang-Chi, and wait a second, wait. Unless Wong's got him like magically mind controlled while he's Abomination or something. The two don't seem to mix up somehow. And they're like, well, maybe he's doing a Silence of the Lambs thing.
Like, it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah.
But just his rationale from the point of view, and that's where good villains always come from, is because they have their point of view.
Yeah.
It's like,
what did he say? I thought I was going to be the next Captain America.
Yeah. Well, his speech about he thought he was the hero. He was there to take down a monster, and they pumped him up full of drugs to help him achieve that end.
Make him Captain America.
Yeah. And I think that's why he swayed Walters onto his side, because she's like, well, yeah, they did. Damn it, you were supposed to be the hero. And wait a second, that was Bruce that you were beating up. So I think that's where she was like, when she made that call to Bruce, to much say, yeah, they want me to defend the Abomination, and he's like, you're just calling me to tell you you're taking the case. I'm calling you to tell I'm taking the case, because she'd already decided.
And that was one part I liked too. And where they did that sort of token female character that just keeps on talking, but it very much felt like a comic book with too many word bubbles. Yeah, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going.
I remember that panel where she's struggling under the word bubble. She's like, could people talk less, please?
Yeah, it felt like that. Another thing I was thinking of with the whole talking to the camera, because I talked about that last podcast, but the other one I thought of was Boston Legal, because I went back and read some of the John Byrne She-Hulk, and she keeps saying things like, oh, I'll probably learn about this in episode 3 or in issue 3.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And Boston Legal would always do that at the end. It's like, oh, I guess we'll see you next season, or we'll find out what happens next episode, or they would say that kind of thing. I wish they had more of that sort of.
That I agree with. I didn't agree with the whole Office thing, because the Office was, the whole premise of the Office is there's a documentary crew around them at all times, and sometimes they turn to the camera and acknowledge the camera, and or when they do the little side interviews. I like the way they're not doing that, because it's not like there's a documentary crew following around yet. So I think if that's some point in these next 6 more episodes, we have 7 more episodes, 9 episodes, so
total.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point they're going to have a film crew's going to be following around to try to do I mean,
that'd be cool if they did. Although in the comic books, it's not like there's a film. No, it's like she was addressing the reader all the time.
Yeah, in the comic books, we are that documentary crew that she's addressing.
And I think they could have pulled that off if they. I just thought some of the looking at the camera was a little bit contrived, and I've seen it done better. So I wish they just nailed that a bit, because that's so iconic for especially the John Byrne run of She-Hulk.
Yeah, and it was always great. You could tell when she was going to address the camera, because the word bubbles changed, and she eye direction right to the viewer. So
right, which doesn't make any sense in the panel, but it's like, whoa, she's looking at me. Why is she talking to me? What the hell?
Yeah. So I want to see where this series is going. And we're going right till mid-October with this, so we got stuff, plenty of fodder to come up. So
yeah. Any final words on She-Hulk, Gavin?
Nothing that's up to that so far. It's what I've been hoping for.
Which was
about
the one you wanted to
Samaritan.
talk to? Bullet Train? Was that yours, Gavin?
Yeah, Bullet Train was what I watched
All right,
last
so
night.
give us a
All right, let's go
rundown.
Bullet Train.
Okay. So after watching Bullet Train, I sat in the theater, kind of looked over at Amanda and just said, "That was the most Quentin Tarantino film I've ever seen that was not directed by Quentin Tarantino." It was directed by David Lech.
Deadpool
He's
2.
known, yeah, Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde, John Wick. He's got an impressive pedigree just as a director alone. But you name the action movie from like early 2000 onwards, he's been part of the stunts team through all of it. So basically stars Brad Pitt, who's a mercenary, possibly the worst luck you've ever seen on a mercenary. He's kind of a snatch and grab guy. He doesn't do wet work, as it were. His code name is Ladybug. Joe King stars as Prince, who's this innocent schoolgirl. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who we know is Kick-Ass and Quicksilver. He's known as Tangerine, who's a British assassin, along with his partner Brian Tyree Henry as Lemon. Seems to have a weird obsession with Thomas the Tank Engine.
Who doesn't?
Andrew Koji as the father. Benito Martinez Ocasio as the Wolf. Zazie Beetz as the Hornet. Michael Shannon as the White Death. Whole bunch of others, including Masi Oka from Heroes. The Japanese fellow who could go transport himself in time. Ryan Reynolds and Channing Tatum also cameo in it. I will say, Mike, I'm so sorry, but I am not going to spoil this. I can't do it. This is like revealing the Usual Suspect spoiler. I'm sorry.
All right.
You have to watch it. You have to watch it to get it, to appreciate the ending. So I can't do that.
Okay, I'm glad you said that
it.
because I want as many spoilers that don't ruin the movie, but if it ruins the movie, that's awesome. Because I agree with everything you said. I was looking at this, it's like, oh my god, this looks like Quentin Tarantino. The action sequences look amazing. Just I'm looking at the trailer, and I hadn't even heard of this movie until you mentioned it in our little side chat.
I kept seeing trailers for it, and I was like, wow, this looks pretty good. So one thing I will say that separates this from your typical Quentin Tarantino movies is, Tarantino movies have a certain type of dialogue to it. It's almost always very dark, very it's witty, but it's not necessarily funny. This has got great witty dialogue and a lot of genuinely funny moments in it. Just a lot of off-cuff remarks, some callbacks to things said earlier in the movie, and the characters, like all of these characters, are just likable. Brad Pitt plays this a mercenary who's trying to do this sort of life-changing kind of thing. He's reading self-help books and stuff like that, reciting like sometimes he's talking to his handler and saying, this is the sort of thing that they talked about. I got to reevaluate things. I got to take things, look from other perspective. And he's basically subbing in for this job, and so. It all revolves around him trying to get this specific case, and everything is all related to this case. The people he encounters who try to fight him for the case, the case itself.
And you're talking a literal case, like a briefcase,
like a briefcase, yeah. The fight scenes are incredibly choreographed. The location, which is pretty much Japanese stations along the bullet train lines, barely come into play. Like, so a couple of them, they just step off, then step back onto the train. So I mean, the bullet train itself is almost a character on its own. I will say there's a bit of suspension of belief that you got to kind of have with some of the stuff, say about the 3/4 point, but just it's a fun ride. And the
I can do
great thing,
suspension of disbelief if it's fun.
just the way everything kind of hints at something else, all leads into like the finale, which makes 100% sense when you finally see it all together.
And that's the no spoiler part.
Yeah, like the small details are so good, but I can't talk about like 99% of them because it will only make sense if you watch the movie without any spoilers. All I can say is watch the damn movie.
All right, I'm just gonna have to go see it then.
Yeah, same.
I think I could very easily convince Mare to go see it, so we'll do a date night sometime. Well, I don't know about this week, but maybe next week. Yeah, maybe next week.
Absolutely, it was. We both agreed it was just offbeat enough with the right kind of action that it was the perfect kind of like rounding out the end of the summer blockbuster kind of movie.
So it's the kind of movie you should see in the theater rather than wait for TV, or is it okay to wait for it?
You could wait for it, but I mean, like there's a lot of stuff that looked really good on the big screen. I will say that.
So it's a date
movie.
Yeah,
take the spouse to a movie night.
Yeah, not super kid friendly. I mean,
I wouldn't take the kids to it. I mean, it's
yeah. There is a fair bit of blood and a bit of gore.
I'm sure Fred would be like, "Why is he bleeding? That's a lot of blood. Where's the dinosaurs?" So,
there's dinosaurs. Spoilers.
Now, I promised I wouldn't tell.
On a quick side note, saying dinosaurs. So, again, on my YouTube feed, someone had linked in. Someone has taken like the Twilight movie and a bunch of other movies, including Jurassic Park, and held up their phone to watch it through their phone, like on like a TV, and they're holding, and they have it through Snapchat through the shook filter. So everyone had like this like crazy shook face. So every time they turn, like a face turns to the camera, and the eyes are wide, but the mouth still matches with the lip sync of the people talking. So my daughter wanted to see, we watched a couple quick ones, and then Jurassic Park. And second, the theme of Jurassic Park, Fred comes running into the room, and it starts with like, the brontosaurus is eating the leaves, and it drops down, and you have a T-Rex. So every time they turn, they get this face, and Fred's like, he's happy. He's really happy. He's looking a lot. His eyes are wide. Look at the big smile on his face. He's super happy with dinosaurs. And I'm just like, and I'm trying not to laugh out loud, but it's so ridiculous. Again, check it out on YouTube. Just type Snapchat filter, Jurassic Park, and enjoy the next minute and a half. But yeah, Fred, when he's narrating stuff like that, it just, I held in the laughter so much that my chest was just tightening up from trying to hold in the laughter so much. But yeah, that's, so when I said dinosaurs, I was surprised there's dinosaurs. It's instantly what I thought of. I'm just giving the listeners something to go look for. So yeah,
that's what we do.
We indeed. So, Mike, you wanted to talk about Cobra Kai because that is just around the corner from starting up the next season. Hit it.
Yes. Where are you at, Gavin? Have you started yet? Or are you still holding out on Cobra Kai?
I'm still like on season 2 somewhere.
Oh, Gavin. So this latest trailer, which I guess came out a couple weeks ago, but I'm always late to these things. It shows so much stuff that's going on. Like, I thought the whole Johnny story would be like Karate Kid 2, where he's in Mexico or wherever he's going, and the two stories would be fragmented. But the fact that you see them come together is incredible. And the whole war against Silver and the franchises and all that kind of stuff looks phenomenal. Looking at the Miguel and Robbie, like their conflict, and to see that they've gone on the journey and they've come back, because you can tell by the locations they're back and they're still going at it. There's a whole that cool Robbie matrix kick thing they do in the battle, which looks phenomenal. But my favorite part was Johnny and Chosen going into Cobra Kai. It's like, sorry, like the old folks lesson isn't not until whatever it is, Tuesday. It's like, oh no, we're not here to take a lesson. We're here to teach a lesson, or however they say it. Anyways, look at the trailer. It's amazing. And I cannot wait for that sequence. And the other one is like, oh, you're playing with fire. Yeah, and I'm the gasoline.
Yeah. It feels like Chosen is going to step into the role of Mr. Miyagi. This way, Daniel can stay as Daniel, but Chosen can be because he knows more about Miyagi-Do than Daniel did.
Yeah, but it's this weird dark side of Miyagi-Do.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
like it's
stuff
like
his uncle would teach him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of.
And it can go hardcore. And I'm looking at the students. That girl that was in Eagle Fang. You see her in the Cobra Kai outfit. It's like, oh, what? How'd she swap over? It's like, I could just got really into karate, and Eagle Fang's not really doing anything. So hey, I'm going to the next best thing.
Yeah.
Tori, the fact that she's still with Cobra Kai, and she's like, like the big student now, because the way that ended, and she knew that she won, but based on the ref getting paid off.
Yeah.
And the fact she's still there is like, I don't know where that story is going to go. And then they bring in that Korean girl to be Silver's like right-hand man to teach. And the idea that she's probably like the granddaughter of whoever created the Cobra Kai style. There's something about that. Like there's some rumors online that might be who that character is going to be. Anyways, there's so many multiple layers of everything. And even the fact that you see Chosen, Daniel, and what's his name? All standing there together.
Yeah.
And Daniel's got the black eye, and like.
But the thing is, they're also bringing. They haven't shown him moving around or anything. But what's his name? Hold on, let me look it up. Sean Kanan, who played Mike Barnes in the third Karate Kid.
Oh yeah, because he's supposed to show up.
It's already shown in some of the stills. He is going to be in this season. Season 5, Sean Kanan returns as Mike Barnes in the first look, so he's going to be there. He was I remember in Karate Kid 3, he's the bad boy of karate. So yeah. So this will be interesting. They're really stacking him in.
Yeah, but to see Johnny and Daniel and Chosen together teaching the students, like that's a crazy powerhouse combo. And it's like, where is that going to go? I have no idea. The fact that they were supposed to shut down the dojo, the fact that you have a franchise starting, Silver's going completely psycho, and then you cut back to Kreese in prison. It's like, oh yeah, I'm good at making friends, and you see him just like wrecking people in prison. It's like, where is that going to go? That seems like you could have a good Silence of the Lambs kind of moment going on. Anyway, so much going on. I'm so hyped.
I was going to say, I wish that Chad McQueen, who played Dutch in the first Karate Kid movie, would come back. But I know that I've read other stuff where he's basically extremely busy with just non-acting pursuits, directing and a host of other things. They did mention in the karate, the Cobra Kai reunion episode where all the original members got together that Dutch was in prison, and that's why he wasn't. Yeah. Maybe with Kreese in prison, maybe he can hook up with Dutch somehow.
How cool would that be? That'd be awesome. Amazing.
But in some way, I just hope that they, somehow he manages to get it to his schedule and manages to do it, because I think it would be so awesome to have him there. But we'll see. They've been able to pull a couple of big surprises along the way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this upcoming season of Cobra Kai.
Gavin, you got to get on board.
So I keep hearing, working at it.
All right. So taking a bit of a turn from there, we have, let's see. So my family and I have been watching Alone, and we have just finished the season of Pairs, where you have two members on each team, and we've just and those Toronto boys somehow pulled out the victory, which I still can't believe, because I think if the dad and son had stayed 2 more days, the Toronto boys would have just succumbed to starvation or a tree falling on one of them or something. Maybe
But
a
they
bear attack.
didn't.
They didn't. But anyways, so we're now into the next season, season 5, the redemption. So redemption, this season is people who didn't win, didn't get it all the way to the end in the last 4 seasons. They took a grouping of them and just let them come back and basically try their hand again at it. Now that they have a taste of what it's like, and maybe they can do better.
And what I said last week is it's like Empire Strikes Back, because you know all the characters, it's a new environment, and what's going to happen next, like, I don't know.
And so it's been interesting so far. We're not that deep into it, but we got to the episode where the one girl who's from Alaska, really good at fishing, manages to sink a fish hook into the back of her hand.
And she was like 3rd place in her season in Patagonia, and
not
like, she
even
lasted so many days.
Yeah,
and she said fishing was the one thing she wasn't good at, so she practiced fishing to get really good at fishing so she would last longer. Go ahead, Trevor.
And it's not like she got a little bit of the fish hook in, like maybe just the part of the hook and bar. It like sunk right down into, so all you could see was the eyelet where you tie the line onto. The rest of it was
looked nasty.
It looked horrible. Now you got to remember, my wife's a doctor, and sitting next to someone who's a doctor watching the show when they have these sorts of injuries, you get a very different perspective. Like, now this girl is trying to pull the hook out as it's, and trying to twist it to pull it out, and you've got that barb, like with any fish hook, you've got that barb that's catching on stuff, and so eventually she tapes it to her hand and taps out. My wife is like,
I have to guess before what she says. You don't try and pull it out, you push it all the way through and loop it out.
Exactly, because the needles that she would stitch with are curved needles. The idea is then you go through all the way through both sides and pull through. So she's like, instead of trying to pull up, it's a curve. It's and a very drastic curve. Simply keep that curve going until it pokes through the skin. They have a med kit where she'd be able to clip off the barb, feed it the rest of the way out, and then you've got 2 small holes you have to basically put antibiotics in, patch it up, and keep going. But because she was trying to pull the hook out the way it went in, it was doing
with the barb, it's not coming out.
Yeah, it's not coming out, and it was just doing more damage on its way out. The smarter thing to do was to, twist it more to complete it all the way through, cut the barb off, and be done with it.
I mean, that's what Gavin would do. I know that.
And I'm sitting next to Mare, just absolutely horrified, just like, oh. Now
I couldn't do it. I'd tap out.
Oh, I would tap out too. I wouldn't have the fortitude to do that. Now, we watched this episode the same day we watched the very first episode of the new Game of Thrones series, where there is...
I didn't even know that was out yet.
Yeah, it came out on Sunday, where there is a rather graphic
fish hook,
medieval style cesarean section.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I was already pretty traumatized by this whole like fish hook through the hand. I'm like, oh my, like forcing it through. I'd be like, oh God. And then we watch this, as I said, very medieval cesarean section where there's a lot of blood and people reaching into cavities and shit. Like, I was just like, I was horrified.
And Mrs. Brown said, oh, we do that all the time.
Mary was she was very clinical, but like, oh, well, that's going to be a bleeder. And I'm just like, oh. Yeah. So that was a big shocker. So I'm kind of looking forward to where they're going to next in this next episode on Sunday, because I'm really enjoying Matt Smith's character. Because
we're talking Alone or Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones, but I'm going to jump back to Alone. So with this redemption arc so far, I'm enjoying where it's going, because again, people are coming in maybe a little cockier than they should. Thinking, well, I on the last time I did this and it was great. I'm thinking, some of you were in Patagonia, which is a different animal, and the only people who could say I'm not going to have any problem, this is going to be an easy, would be the people who won, and none of you are the people who won. There's no guarantee that past experience is going to do you well this time, because you're in a different location than last time. Even if you were on Vancouver Island last time, there's no guarantee you're having the same bounty from the sea or anything like that. So
that's a huge thing, is the whole bounty from the sea thing. How many episodes in are you?
But yeah, I'm really liking this redemption arc so far, like this redemption episode, like our season, because it's really interesting. It's just, because again, people are getting so so cocky about these little things, and you're like, ooh, really?
Yeah, because this is one thing I was mentioning when I was paddling around on a kayak, is that it's interesting to see why people leave. And there's so many different things. Like some people leave because they realize they're going to hit that breaking point that they had before, and they're like, you know what, I'm not going there. And that's their redemption, is that they're not going to take themselves to the point
All
of
right,
collapse.
so we're at the point that the 24-year-old guy from Illinois had to tap out after the 7th day because he hadn't eaten a single thing the whole 7 days. He ate nothing. Like, buddy, grab a handful of fucking grass. Put something into your body. Something. He's like, well, I just can't find food.
Was that the dude who lasted 7 days and he was part of the dual survivor where he lasted 1 day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's a
7
crazy
days,
one.
and he just, like, you haven't eaten. What are you waiting for? Like a bear to come out and serve you a Big Mac or something? Like,
That's a funny one because it's like, oh, I got out because my stupid brother. So this time I'm going to last. And then you don't eat for 7 days. Like,
well,
nope,
he lasted
done.
6 days longer than his brother did, but he didn't eat a goddamn thing. Nothing. So
Nothing.
he was like, no food, like, didn't even eat a goddamn limpet. Like, if you
Do you
can't,
have any idea, Trevor? Like, do you have anyone who you pick as a winner for this one? Because I had a whole bunch of picks, and my picks didn't come close.
I really like the guy who was like having his midlife crisis the first time and like swore a lot. He's kind
Larry.
of like, yeah, he swore a lot. He's kind of like my spirit animal.
Yeah, and he's got the big burly beard in this one.
Yeah,
like nobody
yeah,
recognized him because he
didn't start
completely
off
changed
clean sheet.
appearances.
I wanted initially this when I saw that Brooke Whipple from the couple, I was like, but she was the one that, she crashed hard physically when they quit. So I was like, I didn't want to put it to him, but I really want to say Larry, but I just feel like I think he's going to tap out again because he is mentally, I don't think he's ready for it. So I don't know who I want to say. Originally I would have said this Brad guy because now he's had his chance of redemption. He's doesn't have his lame ass brother, but when he doesn't eat after 7 days, I was just like, you need to go home. If you haven't put anything in your body in 7 days, claiming I can't find anything to eat, look around you. It's all around you. Like, yeah. So I don't know who to put as my horse at this point. I think we're too early in.
Okay.
I think we're just getting rid of the people from stupidity first, and then, yeah. So,
because I had some picks who I thought would probably win, and they failed me.
yeah.
But the winner, I was so happy with.
Okay.
And I'll say no more.
All right. Good. Yeah. Because I said right now, tentatively, I want to say Larry, but I know in my heart he's not going to survive. He's not going to go the distance because it's going to be the same thing as last time. He's going to mentally break down, even though physically he's fine or he's got plenty of food or whatever. Mentally, I don't think he's ready for it. He wasn't ready last time. I don't think he's ready this time. I mean, I kept saying last time, why didn't you just do what every other guy has when a midlife crisis? Buy a fucking Corvette and change your hair or shit like that. Like,
he did change his hair. He got a big burly beard, man.
Just bought himself like a C8 Corvette and been done with it. So yeah, that's alone.
And I'll just go on to say, without spoilers, the next season, the Arctic is absolutely bonkers because you got sub-zero temperatures. The people coming into this, but there's a lot of crazy people, let's say that. And this is the first time you see people catch big game. And that's not a spoiler because they put it in all the trailers and promos. But it's a whole different game. There's people going out with parasites and all sorts of crazy things. People, puking up blood and, dealing with big animals. It's absolutely bonkers. So we're getting close to the end of that one now. Okay. But it's definitely interesting.
Awesome.
Of course, the rest of my family's all in season 9. So when I'm here at the family cottage, it's like, whoa, no spoilers.
From here, I think we're going to shift gears a bit. So on Amazon Prime on Friday, yesterday, they released a movie with Sylvester Stallone, a superhero film called The Samaritan or Samaritan. I think there's no the, so it's just Samaritan. Quick plot is long ago there was twin brothers born that had superhuman strength and healing. One became a hero, one became a villain because their local townsfolk late one night boarded up their house when them and their parents inside and lit it on fire. The twins escaped, but the parents perished in the fire. The one brother became a hero. The other twin became a villain. The Samaritan and Nemesis are the two names, and and then they had this big battle. Like, was it 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or something like that? 25. Gavin, you're muted. We can't hear you.
That was 40 years ago.
I don't think it was that long. But it was a long enough time ago that both of them disappeared. People think one killed the other. They killed each other or whatnot. And we follow this young kid, Sam, who is convinced that his neighbor across the way, a garbage man, is the Samaritan. And yeah, that's basically an initial synopsis without giving too much away. I will say, after watching the opening crawl and a little bit of the dialogue, I'd already guessed the big plot twist, because it was, I think they hinted a little too hard. So yeah, and then when they did the plot twist, I was like, yeah, I guessed that an hour and 20 minutes ago. I enjoyed the film. Sylvester Stallone, I think, did a really good job. I mean, when you think, just how old he is in reality, and he can still move. He's
74 years old, man.
Yeah, and he's still able. He's actually 76. 76. Yeah, because I remember last year they made a big deal of being Rocky's 75th birthday, because there was a big celebration in Philadelphia. Anyways, he's still a good actor, still move pretty well. And yeah, it was a fun movie to watch. It wasn't like, revolutionary or groundbreaking, but it was a great way to entertain yourself for an hour and a half. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. How about you, Gav?
I definitely enjoyed it. Plot was kind of cookie cutter in a lot of ways. The kid next door is basically trying to figure out if this guy is the Samaritan or not. I will say I did not see the twist. It just felt like, but then looking back, it made a lot of sense, because there was never any specific acknowledgement that he was Samaritan, and in fact, he actually denied it multiple times. And it's like, oh well, he's just being he's being coy. He's just trying to distract things. Nope, he was telling the truth. Special effects were pretty decent. There's a little bit here and there that looked a little bit like, oh come on. I did enjoy how his powers worked. When he got hit by the truck and he was just lying on the pavement, you see that. I think you see that in the trailer for it, and he's like, all of his bones are snap, like popping back into place. And it's like,
yeah, that's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And they do explain, like, why he's, well, if he can heal like that, then why is he aging, sort of thing. And it's like, because when he heals from traumatic wounds like that, his body starts to heat up because it's an exothermic reaction. And he has to basically dump the excess heat that his body's generating to do this healing. And he usually does it with eating a lot of ice cream, basically cooling. He basically goes into his apartment, stands in the shower and runs cold water, big billowing clouds of steam coming off him. And then he eats a lot of ice cream to cool back down his internal temperature. So there is a little bit of physics going on there. They're trying to do some great wire work, like when he's like punching people or throwing people to, instead of just like, ooh, knock me back step, like threw him across like the room, sort of thing. So I like the wire work in it. It was very subtle, but at the same time, very effective, because you're dealing with someone who is tremendously strong, and it shows. And again, Sylvester Stallone played it really well, like played it believably enough that you're like, oh, if someone did have super strength like that, because you'll notice when he's not doing something that requires strength. He moves very deliberately and diligently. Like he doesn't like quickly reach out and grab something. It's a very premeditated move to interact with something, knowing that if he grabs something too fast, like if he grabs someone by the arm or something, he could shatter it and kind of give away his secret. So to me it was some very intelligent acting in that case of thinking like, oh, I'm playing a character who's this strong, how would he treat the world around him as to not give himself away? So
I quite enjoyed the fact that he's very clearly not Superman. Like bullets don't bounce off him. When he one of the gang punks basically rushed at him with a knife, he catches it in his hand, and you see it pop through his the back of his hand, and then he crushes the blade with his hand, and like he pulls it out, and yeah, he's clearly not invincible. But
it's like the Tick. He's not invincible.
Yeah, and he even makes mention of the fact that because he's older, he's not as powerful as he used to be. Can't lift as much as he used to, can't jump as far as he used to, and just that he's kind of slowing down, and so yeah, it's a nice way of like the aging hero who's trying to quietly live out his golden years sort of thing. So yeah, to me, I had a great time watching it. I didn't think too hard or try to read too deeply into it. There was definitely
what kind of score would you give it, both you and Trevor?
I'd give it a bit of
Gavin, like what'd you say?
A 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it a 6. There was some definite story things that they tried to either quickly gloss over or they went a little too generic with, that they could have gone a different route and made it a little bit more unique. But
okay, so it's kind of like middle of the road.
Sam Cleary though was a creepy fucking kid.
Oh yeah,
fucking voyeur, breaking into people's houses. I mean, he was willing to do anything to try and find out the secret. So
yeah, break in, all that fun stuff. So yeah,
because I haven't seen this movie yet. Just the trailer. It's interesting to hear your guys' opinion. The one thing that connected with me is it's kind of a tie-in to things I've been talking about with casting, where they try and take old casting and diversify it, wokeify it, rainbow splash it, whatever you want to call it, take Skittles and throw at it. But if you want to do that, why not make a new story? And that's what's neat about the Samaritan to me, is because it's an original story, and you can see just even from watching the trailer, you can see the Dark Knight vibes or whatever else, like the Old Man Logan vibes, whatever it is, like the old superhero just coming to terms with where they are in life and kind of abandoning the game and getting drawn back in. It's like the God, try to get out, but they keep pulling me back in. You see that vibe in it.
They even make mention of the fact that for him destroying it with his super strength, destroying is easy. So as a way to relax himself and to almost like a self medication is he takes old things and repairs them, like an old radio or a toaster.
Okay, that's in the trailer with the radio.
Yeah. So that's what he does as a way of trying to find his place in the world. Like his day-to-day is he's a garbage man, and sometimes he'll find an interesting find in the garbage and he'll repair it as a way of, that's like his thing he does to try to center himself.
Right, it's the not destroying things.
Exactly, doing the opposite of what he's capable of, which is destroy massive amounts and try to repair something that is, and usually an old thing, something that's been thrown away, old like himself. So he repairs it, finds use for it, and yeah,
so that's a cool kind of meta philosophy injected in. Because one thing with this kind of stuff too is like, it reminds me of Alan Moore's Watchmen, where he tried to do the charlatan heroes. It's like, whoa, this is way too dark. It's like, fine, I'll just change all the characters. And then you get Watchmen, which is one of the greatest comic books of all time.
Yeah.
I think more people should do that. And again, I keep calling it woke casting, but like, if you want to do something like that, create something just like that young Ripa that Eric July guy was saying. Yeah. It's like, you can create a new character. You don't have to take something old and then swap it. Like, in fact, if you take that old thing and mix it up and tell out your dollar store Watchmen story, that could become a multi-million-dollar franchise that you own. It's like what George Lucas did. He wanted to do Flash Gordon, he couldn't do it, so it's like, fine, I'll just make Star Wars.
Yeah.
Ka-ching.
Unfortunately, then Abrams went along and basically remade Star Wars when he did Force Awakens. Like
See, he should have made a new movie.
Like a
Anyways,
beat for beat of
yeah. That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. We've kind of had some of that podcast before. So, before we get into our top 10, so D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, earlier this month announced they are putting out, instead of calling it a new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, they're calling it Dungeons and Dragons 1. They're rewriting the monster manual, the player's handbook, and the dungeon master guide. They're taking all the stuff they've learned from all the previous editions, 5 all the way down, and then what people have written in is, rules they didn't understand or things or changes they've made, house rules and stuff like that, and trying to adapt all of that into a one harmonious system to try to bring in new players, because stuff like Stranger Things increased the sales of Dungeons and Dragons books across the board.
Oh yeah, I have some stuff to say about that, but keep going.
Yeah, so they have recently acquired the D&D Beyond digital tools and website and all that stuff. So they're going to make, the idea is, if you watch the trailer for D&D 1 or Dungeons and Dragons 1, when you play the game, when you're role playing the game, the DM will have a set, basically a digital toolbox that he can play with, where he can, because I board game with a group where they've got, like, in the table is a giant LCD screen, I think it's a 48-inch TV. And you'll be able to then broadcast, and you can have the dungeon there, so everyone can see, well, there's my character and there's what I'm seeing for line of sight, without having to have the miniatures. So you can have it all through digitally. You can customize your miniatures digitally and all that sort of stuff. Or you can do it all with paper and pencil if you want to do it old school. Or you can each have your tablet with your character sheet, and it'll even have virtual dice, so you don't have to buy a set of dice if you're crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
you need real dice.
You have to have dice.
Yeah, virtual everything else, but you need your dice.
You need the D20 that always rolls 20s, and the D20 that will never roll anything but a 1. Because it's just like lucky dice has turned against me. Now I have to use this horrible dice. So you need stuff like that. But it looks to be pretty nice. And what they're doing is
character rolling dice, dude.
Yes, I have actually.
There we go. Gavin's got them.
I have clear plastic dice that inside is a smaller D6. Yeah. So you roll 2d6 by rolling 1 dice. Anyways, I think it's a great idea, and from what they're showing in the trailer, they're really ambitious with it, and I hope they succeed, because this will brings more people into D&D, which is a great medium for developing budding storytellers. Which, again, for me, story is king. I mean, you can have whatever visual effects or whatever audio effects, but if the story's weak, nothing else is going to save it. Story can save everything else, but story can't be weak if you want it to be good. And tell a good story. This is D&D helped shape me into a storyteller. So yeah, I saw this and I was like, well, I want to share this with the group, because right now they're in like the early playtest phase. So they have like this, I think it's Unearthed Arcana you can download, and starting September 1st, they'll start taking feedback from people, because they want a lot of fan interaction to help build it up so that they can make it the best possible. And all the more power to them. So yeah.
And here's what I was going to say is, because of Stranger Things, my kids and my nieces and nephews all got obsessed with the whole idea of storytelling through Dungeons and Dragons. And I told them, it's like, oh, this is what we did back in the day, back when we were in college. And they're like, whoa, you played that? It's like, Dad, we have to do a game. So we're up here at the cottage, and this was a couple weeks ago, and they all rolled up characters and got everything done. It's like, whoa, you guys are actually serious about this. It's like, darn, okay, I have to get like the manuals and stuff. It's like, Dad, can we play tonight? It's like, no. If I'm going to be dungeon master, I actually have to get a story together. Like, this has to be good. So they've been waiting, throughout the summer for like the moment we can do this. It's like we have to get together. We need a box of pizza. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do this actual thing. So we've been kind of planning this out, just waiting for everybody to reunite. And I've got a story in mind and all this kind of stuff, but like knowing that these resources are coming out,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to take a look at
and
that.
the thing is, I mean, we're sitting in a great resource right here. I know of quite a few number of D&D games that are being done basically cross country, all of that being done in Zoom or Skype or whatever sort of, peer-to-peer sort of system. And the tools that they're talking about for this D&D one are going to be able to integrate that. So you would be able to, you could be in at your house in Toronto running a game, and basically have the maps and all that sort of stuff, and them on their machines, being able, like their tablets or laptops or whatever, being able to see the map as much as you show them from their character's point of view, as well as still having chat boxes and be able to talk to and see people face to face. And you could say, well, tell you what, I will roll all the dice as the DM, and you can have it either done in your machine, or you can have a camera and, so they can see the dice being rolled, however you want to do it.
Okay, right.
And to me, that's just, the more people playing, the better, honestly.
Yeah. And because I'm old school, right? Like we're pencil paper animators, we go back to the old days.
And you have to have
something about you have to have that, at least to start. You have to have that element where it's just people hanging out together and just doing that thing. Those Stranger Things moments.
Yeah.
From there you can expand and go out to the digital to keep it going. But
I was in Toronto. I was actually in Canada for the last couple of days. And as we were driving to my sister's place, I passed a pizza, and I was like, that brings back a lot of memories.
I want to roll a D20. I don't know why.
I want to eat pizza that's basically cardboard with crayons drawn on top of the cardboard to be pepperoni, and then they slap cheese on top. That's pretty much what pizza is. But they give you a ton of it. 2 pizzas for the price of one, sort of bullshit. So
I'll never forget back in college where we were doing, it was a cyberpunk adventure, but we ordered a bunch of pizza, and it came and there was a staple in it in the pizza. So we called them and said, there's a staple in our pizza. So they brought another 2 boxes of pizzas to replace the one with the staple. It's like, oh my god, we just got 4 pizzas. This is the best.
It's not like we threw the pizza. It's we ate around. We pulled the staple out.
Ate around the staple.
You have the staple remover.
Yeah, it's not like it stopped us from eating the pizza, but thanks for more pizza. So I just wanted to mention D&D 1 because as I said, it's, from what I saw from the little YouTube blurb about it, the tools look pretty cool, what they're proposing, what they're going to be able to do with it. So, and I have used on the D&D Beyond site, I did use their character creation tool, which made it so much easier to you just like, oh, this is the charisma, this is the strength, this is this, and this is the name, and this is the race. And you pick the race, and it backfills all the penalties and bonuses to the attributes. You're like, oh, that's so much easier than tracking it down. You're like, all right, so I'm giving a long sword. There's my damage. There's my bonuses. Makes it so much easier. So much goddamn easier. Because sometimes math is stupid.
Yeah.
Well,
that's good to know.
I will say this as a longtime D&D player. I played so far 4 or 5 different 5th edition campaigns. We're starting with pencil and paper. Discovered that there was Excel files you could download, and basically you pick your race, you pick your stats, you pick all the languages, and it will just automatically sum it all up for you. You can print it off, you can play it right off of the actual sheet on your tablet or what have you. But so far, the best experience I've had so far has been playing, when COVID hit, we had to stop playing in person. The feel of actually rolling dice was always fantastic, but when COVID hit, we had to all basically stay home. So we started playing using D&D Beyond with a plugin to Roll20, and gotta say the system is phenomenal. Not that I had this ready and waiting to go here. Oh, shit, Trevor, you don't have it set to for sharing.
Oh, well, fine. I'll make it.
Oh, come on, Trevor. You should share with us.
Fine. There, share your goddamn screen.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So what you're seeing here is the D&D Beyond.
Oh, wait, I see nothing. Gavin
I'm
has
seeing it.
started.
Give it
There
a
we
second. So this is the D&D Beyond character sheet here. This is if you don't have a membership on it yet, you're very limited what you can do. But one of our players has basically pretty much bought every single digital content available and has shared it with us. So gives us full access to everything. So you got your stats up here. You see that little little icon that pops up when I highlight something.
Mhm.
Yep.
That basically means I can just hit the dice, roll, and then it'll automatically tell me what my roll is. So all the math is solved. Everything is taken care of. Damage, everything. So if I really wanted to do damage from my thunder spear or whatever the hell it's called,
Throw a magic missile at Trevor.
No, don't throw a magic missile at me. Jesus Christ,
I
Gavin.
attack the darkness.
Oh, well.
Anyway, where's the hell's the stop
I
sharing?
respond with my katana +5.
Anyway, so I've been playing a lot of 5th edition. As editions go, it's probably the easiest one to learn simply because it's all addition. So 2 plus 2 from your stat bonus, 5 for your proficiency bonus, plus the D20. That's it. That's all it has to be on. So if you're just starting off, if you're just learning, it does make a lot more sense than like 2nd edition of THACO.
Yeah, see, people needed to. You had to learn the pain of figuring out THACO to really
to hit armor class 0. That's what it
to
stands
hit
for.
armor class 0, AC 0. You had to enjoy that pain of the convoluted math you needed to fill out that box of, all right, my character with their longsword and their strength and their specializations, all that, their THACO is a 12. But to get there, it's like 3 pages of numbers, and you're
Advanced
adding,
science,
subtracting, and you're like using like sin, cos, and tan, and maybe the graphing function on the calculator, and you're like 12. There we go, all done.
Although that's great for kids, I will say for my sons,
It taught me
they
math.
learn math through video games and hit points and things like playing Pokemon. It's like, okay, I have, a character with 120 health and it gets hit by 80, and what does they have left? Oh, they got 40 left. They're little tiny kids, like barely able to read.
But they can figure out they can take 3 hits from this and 2 hits from that, based on the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the way they learn mathematics through games is phenomenal.
So, yeah, I think if I get my kids in on this, I'm going to make them do the math by paper first, and then I'll let them fill out the character sheet, and then have them fill out the character sheet after, and then like, yeah, I was the right.
Then we'll join Gavin's group and get all the fancy stuff.
Yes.
I do have to say the D&D 1 resource material so far, I've given a pretty good look over. What they've done is they basically stripped the stat bonuses out of the races and added them to your background. So you have a lot more customization with how the character you're going to play. So if you're going to play a wizard, and you're playing an elf that's got +2 in dexterity and +1 in charisma, it's not the smartest elf in the world, but you want the smartest elf in the world to be a wizard. So this gives you a lot more flexibility with how you apply the stats. Some other things that I think are they're going to be dealing with as well. This is just on the character origins and character creation side of things, but they're giving you a feat based on your background as well. So if you're playing like a criminal mastermind, you get alertness. If you're playing a town guard, you get savage attacker. I'm just pulling off the top of my head because I don't have it right in front of me. But basically, you automatically get a feat right away, which helps you kind of tailor your character. So instead of just being a cookie cutter fighter, cookie cutter wizard, cookie cutter cleric, you're now the wizard who just happens to have a little bit of divine magic available to them. You're the thief who knows how to use masonry tools or something like that. It just gives you a little more jurisdiction over how you envision your character. I've been hearing some other things too. Like 5th edition has done a lot of things right, but some of the things that have been kind of baffling in terms of how they've done it is certain classes seem powerful, but if you compare to them other classes, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense. So sorcerers, for example, they're supposed to be the ones that they've got magic in their blood, but they have a very small selection of spells compared to, say, wizards who can get every spell. They tried to adjust that with their various new material books, new source books, and gave new sorcerer origins with bonus spells, but they didn't go back and give bonus spells to the old classes. So if you were a wild mage, you didn't get anything extra, but if you're playing like one of the newer subclasses, you suddenly have like 8 more spells you just automatically get. So I think what they're going to be doing with D&D 1 is they're going to be basically balancing things out a little bit more, give it so that players can feel like they're not being ripped off by making one particular choice when the other choice, which would be kind of like the perfect for the min-maxer, or the someone who's just trying to power game, just gives it a little bit more agency in terms of like how you can create your character.
See, for me, again, going back to story, I like characters who are a challenge to play. So I think one of my favorite characters to play was a barbarian who's super strong with an intelligence of 4. So the DM would give everyone their information. Then he looked at me and say, "It's hot," and that's all I had to go on. It's hot. So there we go. Because limited intelligence, that all I don't understand. But I also had a ring of wizardry, which was a chain connected to a wizard with a collar around his neck, and I'd shake it and say fireball, and he'd cast a fireball.
Well, you play the barbarian that casts spells.
Exactly.
Spells being his hammer.
All right. So next up will be the top 10. So as people may have remembered, we have put together our own top 10 lists of our 10 favorite movies of all time. And we've been making our way down the list. At one point, we were going along at a healthy clip, but we had a couple of stumbling blocks. Last week we did
2022.
Yeah. So last week we did number 4 for episode 49. Gavin's going to put his number 4 in, and then we're going to move on to our number 3. So Gavin,
because we didn't find out yours, Gavin. Gavin, what was your number 4 pick?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Mike. My number 4 is once again going to be a little off the beaten path. And as always, only in this spot because, well, somebody forced me. So it's directed by Jay Chandrasekhar and written by and starring the Broken Lizard comedy group. The comedy film Super Troopers. Broken Lizard has written quite a few movies with Club Dread, The Dukes of Hazzard, Beer Fest, and The Slam and Salmon, all with average to negative reviews. Starring Jay Chandrasekhar as Lieutenant Arcot Ramthorn, Kevin Heffernan as Trooper Rodney Farva, Steve Lemay starring as Trooper McIntyre Womack, Paul Soder as Trooper Carl Foster, Eric Stolhansky as Trooper Robbie Roto, and Brian Cox as Captain John O'Hagan. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's about 4 state troopers.
Say I have not seen it.
You what?
I have not seen it. So
okay. There's the poster for Super Troopers 2, as signed by Eric. Damn it.
Nice. So it's a story of 4 state troopers who patrol a 50-mile section of highway in the fictional town of Spurbury, Vermont, all competing for status with the local police department and trying to one-up each other on cases. And upon discovering a dead body in an RV after an all-out brawl with said local police force, which ultimately leads to a standoff with the now exposed criminal masterminds in the state troopers. Now, since Mike hasn't seen it, and honestly, it's
how could you have not seen it, Mike?
I
just haven't. There's a lot of weird movies fun. I've not seen.
It's 21 years old. You should have seen it by now. It's older than your children.
Spoilers. I have not seen Alien. At least not all in one viewing. It's
can't
one of
talk
those
to you
weird
anymore.
things. No matter how many times, it's weird. There's
I don't hear you anymore,
a Christmas
Michael.
Story. I've not seen.
I don't.
It's a full movie.
I don't hear
There's
you anymore.
just weird things
You
that have
haven't-
happened.
You haven't watched Alien?
Life happens
No,
every
it doesn't
single
happen that
time.
much.
Okay, married 25 years. I keep watching it, and it's like, oh, kid's having trouble. Oh, we got to shut it down. Okay, so I have seen the whole movie.
Just not all in
It's
one
a
sitting.
sequence.
Okay.
And then over the last decade, we were going to watch the whole thing. Someone falls asleep. Something happens. Anyways, sorry, Gavin, stumping on your time. Super Troopers.
Go.
So from the bits that they play upon unsuspecting drivers, such as the meow skit, where Foster uses the word meow as many times as he can as a conversation with the driver, to screwing with some teens who force one of their own to eat an entire bag of mushrooms, to the distraction of a hunter seemingly going bareback on a grizzly bear. It's one of the funniest movies I've seen, in my opinion. The maple syrup chugging contest near the beginning alone was worth the price of admission. The plot is fairly threadbare but serviceable, but the banter just makes me laugh. Why do I like it so much? It's off the wall, it's stupid fun, and the gags are straight out quotable. I mean, easily one of my most quoted movies. Is it a great movie? I wouldn't call it like Oscar winning by any stretch of the imagination.
If it's on your number 3, I think it's pretty Oscar worthy. Okay, sorry, keep going.
But it's definitely one I can watch again and again because it just makes me freaking laugh.
That's awesome.
And
okay,
scene.
I gotta watch it.
Yes, you do. I'm shockingly disappointed at you. Yeah, the fact that the poster's upside down, but it's supposed to be like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm going to pistol whip the next person who says shenanigans. Hey, Farva, what's the name of that fancy restaurant with all the crap on the walls? Shenanigans? Oh!
Hands on the pistol.
Well, that's hilarious because me and my wife, Mrs. Kitchen, we have this whole shenanigans joke that's been going long term for decades.
For that alone,
the fact
you must
that's
watch
tied in. All right, so it's a date movie.
Yeah, it is. It's just, do I look like a cat to you, boy? Am I all jumping around, all nimbly bimbly from tree to tree? Am I drinking milk from a saucer? Do you see me eating mice?
Because that's like the Catwoman movie.
Well, no, it's because he says, how about the cat game? All right, what's the cat game? What's the record? It's like Thorny did 6. It's like, I think you do 10. 10? Starting right meow? And just every time you say the word now, you say meow. And it's just like,
now, you know what?
The person he's doing it to is Jim Gaffigan, the comedian. You could tell is struggling not to laugh. He is visibly struggling it while sitting in the seat, listening to the, excuse me, are you saying meow? Am I saying meow? I don't think so, boy. Meow. How fast were you going? Like, just,
you know, the best part about that is his partner was on the other side, on the passenger's side, and you can see, like, from the window, you can see basically his chest down to his stomach, and he's like convulsing, trying not to laugh out loud.
Yeah, it's great. So I got to meet Eric at the Albany Comic-Con, and that's where I got the Super Troopers 2 poster. I got to sit in on the Q&A, and then met him later, and I got him to sign the poster. He's stupidly funny guy, and he's like, he just like, unfortunately the rest of them were supposed to show up, but there was there was a family incident and then a missed flight, and so he was the only one who made it. So I only got his signature on the poster. But yeah, it was such. I mean, I like Super Troopers 2, but Super Troopers 1 is the better film, is the funnier film.
Cup the balls.
Yeah, so Mike, you need to see it. You really do need to see it.
I'm sold.
So my number 3, because now we've done number 4s. Finally got through the 4s, people. We're finally done number 4s. We're now into the top 3. This is where, this is for all the marbles. These are the top 3 films that each of us deem as the best films.
So Trevor, what is your number 3 movie of all time?
My number 3, released in 1980. So I was a little 7-year-old kid. And this movie came out with a modest budget, $30 million. Made at the time would be a monstrous amount of over $500 million at the box office. It wasn't an original movie. It was a sequel movie. Maybe of a small franchise you might have heard, Star Wars. This was The Empire Strikes Back. This was a movie that had a profound impact on my life. So I had seen Star Wars, and I mean, loved all the spaceships and stuff like that. I was still a little kid. And when I saw this movie, it had one of the biggest cinematic twists that let me know that you could do cinematic twists. You could have a twist like that, Darth Vader was Luke's father, which up until
Whoa,
this
what?
point,
Spoilers? Is this
What
a
the
spoiler
hell?
cast?
yeah, I know. It is a spoiler cast, boys. You're in for the ride. Strap in. Click that buckle tight. So part of Empire that we got to see Vader's master. We saw Vader take a knee, and I was a little shocked at that because I mean, to me, he was the big bad. But then we found out that he was Skywalker's dad. Was just like, I remember sitting in the theater, and I couldn't breathe. And my dad actually had to like smack me on the back to get me to take a breath because I'm like just sucking in air but not exhaling, and I couldn't understand what that, like, how could you do this to your own son? And yeah. And I will say, so at the time we were living in Calgary, which winter in Calgary has basically, it's two extremes. It's either you have a Chinook where it's green grass and warm weather and everyone's in shorts and t-shirt, or it's the goddamn tundra where you're like knee deep in snow, praying to God that you don't freeze to death as you walk out to the mailbox. So this movie comes out, and of course everyone knows the movie starts on Hoth where it's cold. And I remember as a kid, after seeing that movie at school, they'd call for recess, and we would like gear up as if, because going out into the winter, you had to gear up when going outside. We would gear up with the idea that we were going to, we were the rebels going to go fight off the Imperial forces in the walkers coming towards us. And that was also, my parents got me like tauntauns and the little blaster on the like the one of the battle station, like the little, I can't remember the name of the turret. And I got like, Hoth, Han, and Luke, and a bunch of snow troopers. And so,
Quick question: did you have the tauntaun where you could shove Luke up inside?
No, I wanted that one, but I had the one where you pop him in the top, and the rubber saddle had the fake legs on it.
Yeah.
But I would go into the backyard, and I would reenact the Battle of Hoth. I didn't have an AT-AT, but I built one out of wood, like out of sticks and whatnot. And it was just more of sending up the rebel trench with and it was just redoing the Battle of Hoth in my head with all these.
Quick insert: me and my brothers saved our paper route money for like a year to buy the AT-AT walker. We had to combine. There's no way we can do this on our own. We have to combine forces, and we got the AT-AT walker.
But that movie was just, it to me was such a seminal moment of, I couldn't fathom how a movie this great and all the different storytelling and that big plot twist of Darth Vader. And so it was such a changing moment for me that, up until this point, I would, all the sort of kid things from this point on, any waking moment, I had a scrap of paper and a pencil, and I was doodling TIE fighters and X-Wings and AT-ATs and Vader's helmet and stormtrooper helmets and all that sort of stuff. It consumed basically my waking hours. If I wasn't, having to do a math problem at school or whatnot, I remember even getting a note from my teacher saying, please stop drawing all the X-Wings on the math test because sometimes it's hard to find the answers. Because I would fill the page with like space battles, then down towards the bottom it would be AT-ATs and guys in trenches and drawing the beams with the different colored pens and stuff. Blue, these guys are blue and these guys are red. And, oh yeah, and yeah. So and I would fill up a math test page with that, and in around that you would find the numbers for the answers for the questions. So the one teacher asked me to stop because it was really difficult for him. He did commend how nice the pictures were. So growing up, I mean, this was a film that it was the very first VHS tape I ever bought. Was Empire Strikes Back. Not Star Wars, not Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. And I remember bugging the video store when's it come out on VHS? When's it come out on VHS? And he's like, he finally said, Jim Head's like, all right, we've got it. And I saved up my allowances. I mowed extra lawns. No, mine's even older than that, Gav. Like original VHS. And the second he said, I've got it, and it was like $30, which up until this point, most movies, when you bought them on VHS, were cheaper, like 15, but it was $30, and I happily spent the money.
I have to say, foreshadowing, I have a VHS story in mind too, but keep going.
But I watched that once I bought the movie. I watched that movie at least once a day. Like either in the morning before school or when I got home from school before dinner or after dinner, I would watch. And I had a little monitor that my Nintendo was hooked onto and stuff like that. I watched that movie so many times. I actually wore out the tape. Like it got to the point where I heard the moment when the tape snapped inside the machine. And it was just worn. There were sections where you were watching it and the screen would almost go to white because those sections of the tape were pretty much just worn through the tape. And it was just, that's how much I watched it. I mean, it is without a doubt the movie I have watched the most. And this is from the guy who one summer watched E.T. 3-4 times every Saturday because my mom was working the flea market and she'd send us to the theater, and E.T. was the only movie I could get into. So I'd watch like 3-4 showings of it a weekend. I saw Empire Strikes Back more. And
it's so, only at your number 3.
It's only at my number 3, which makes you wonder what's number 1 and number 2. But this movie was, when we started this list, this was the first movie I wrote down. And then I was adding movies, and it did not shuffle out of the top 3. It stayed at number 1 for quite a while, and then got shuffled out of 1, shuffled out of 2, and stayed rock steady at 3. And other movies came up to it and never made it move. So it tells you how much I love this movie. It proved to me also the sequel can be better than the original. To me, the Empire Strikes Back is a better movie than Star Wars for many reasons, but one of them is
I can't wait to hear what Troy has to say about that.
Oh, yeah. The good guys
Spoilers.
The good guys don't win. This was the first movie where I ever encountered the fact that the good guys don't win, because they didn't. That's
why I loved Infinity War. That was my children's empire.
They slunk off and licked their wounds, but they didn't. The good guys didn't win at the end of this movie. Han Solo's been taken captive. Luke's lost a hand. And they're on the run. And I'm like, you mean the good guys don't always get to win at the end? And it was funny. It was my dad that said it's more like real life like that way. The good guys don't always win. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you don't. And you've got to understand that, and you've got to realize that is an outcome. And that changed me, because up until this point, all the movies I had seen at this point, by the end of the movie, the good guy won. The bad guy was defeated. The good guy won. And this was the first movie I saw that wasn't the case. And I was like mind blown multiple times. So that is my number 3. Michael, what's your number 3?
Back when I was in high school, I would do these babysitting jobs. And obviously I had a lot of younger siblings and new people. So it's like, hey, Mike can watch your kids. So I'd do that. Easy money. So, you put the kids to bed and just sit around and eat chips and popcorn and watch movies on TV. And of course, City TV always had movies airing, normally uncensored, which was awesome. So I was flipping through the channels and you see Harrison Ford sitting there. It's like, what? Like, what's Han Solo doing in this movie? It looks so weird. Why is he eating noodles? And I just kept watching. And it was unlike, it's like, he's not Indiana Jones. He's not Han Solo. What is this thing? And the movie was Blade Runner. And I kept watching this movie. And it was the most mind-blowing experience I had sitting into a movie that I didn't even know existed. So I was a teenager at the time. I was like 15 years old. So it was like well after the movie was released. But immediately that just stuck in my head and got the cyberpunk genre imprinted in my brain. The Ridley Scott directing, with like the long shots and then crazy special effects. And it just stuck with me. And at that point, I wouldn't say it would have been on my top 10 list. But then around 1992, they came out with this thing called the director's cut. And so we were in Sheridan at the time when they were releasing this on VHS. And myself and John Scallon, we went to the video store. It was like, this VHS is going to be released. We have to buy it. It's like, okay, it's going to be $50. Like, what? $50 for a VHS? It's like, screw it. I'm buying it. Like, I have to see this thing. And that version of the movie, so Blade Runner, the director's cut, easily slots into my number 3 because all the things that I thought were kind of cheesy with the original, with the voiceovers and with the happy ending and all that kind of stuff, that was all removed. The insertion of the unicorn sequence, where it's like, whoa, Deckard might be a replicant, is crazy. And throughout this whole movie, there's so many of those cyberpunk elements, like both that and Akira. And like I said last week, Akira didn't make the top 10 just because it didn't quite finish. It didn't finish off the story. But Blade Runner, as its own little entity and encapsulating that whole cyberpunk genre, was phenomenal. The Vangelis soundtrack, amazing. That's one I had on CD, would just constantly listen to while animating because it's so ambient.
Oh, the ending credits, man.
Oh, so amazing. And yeah, that's just a movie that stuck with me. And there's so many interesting things how it changed from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, where after watching the movie, going back and reading the book, you realize these are two completely different entities. Like, concepts exist that are the same. But that's one of those cases where they took the story, changed it, flipped it, created its own thing. And it was really strong. And I don't know about people who read the book first, if they said, oh, this movie sucks. Maybe that existed. But I watched the movie first and thought it was really powerful. And all these ideas of humans playing God and what does life mean? And like the whole 4-year lifespan. And then all those improv moments, like Rutger Hauer doing the, Tears in Rain. There's so many powerful moments in that movie. And because I came at it so unsuspecting and just got steamrolled by it, it just stuck in my head forever. And actually, a fun fact, back when I was working on Hellboy, there's a scene where the Samael monster is getting blown away by the agent. And so he's writhing around on the ground. And I was like, oh, I need a reference shot for that. So it's like, oh, well, when Pris gets blown away, I'm going to use that as reference. So I animated the scene with Samuel doing the Pris thing. And when the animation directors showed it to Guillermo del Toro, he goes, oh, that's the Pris shot. Yeah, I love the Pris shot. Just have him do an extra slam at the end of the Pris shot. So the fact that he could recognize that inspiration in the shot of the movie, I thought was amazing. But yeah, Harrison Ford is one of those characters where he plays multiple characters that you just love. And I think that's one sign of a great actor. And I've got that in a few of my lists where there's an actor or a director that has multiple things, like just like Trevor, you have a bunch of Spielberg in your lists and all this kind of stuff. But Harrison Ford, the way he keeps showing up in everybody's lists, goes down in history as one of the greatest actors of all time for me. And Blade Runner, the cyberpunk genre, the Ridley Scott directing style, everything about this movie, it just got me hooked into this cyberpunk genre. And again, back in college when you were doing the cyberpunk role-playing games and stuff, there's such a, I don't know, like a strong part in my heart for this genre. I love it when it's done right. So yeah, that's my number 3.
Quick question. What did you think about the sequel?
I thought it was weak. I mean, I thought the visual directing style was nice. I liked the long camera moves. I liked the ambiance of everything. But the story, I thought, didn't need to happen. The only thing I thought was really awesome was basically the hologram. The hologram was super cool, but everything else, meh.
All right.
What did you guys think about the sequel?
I was disappointed. I was really disappointed. It had some neat visual effects, but again, for me, story's king, and that one didn't have a great story.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere to me. I don't know. What do you think, Gavin, about the sequel? 2040, what? Something?
2049, was it?
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049. I honestly enjoyed it. There wasn't, like, as you said, the plot was a little threadbare, but I did enjoy the visuals. There's something about this devastated world. Dave Bautista's replicant that was trying to grow plants just wanted to live. There's something that was just kind of just like, why can't we let this guy live? But yeah, I enjoyed it. Visually, it was to me, it was stunning. I don't have much to say about the plot. I mean, I was just kind of just along for the ride.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed about doing this podcast is the things that I go most rage monster against are because I love the source material the most. And that's been a constant thing. Like the new Matrix movies, I think they're terrible because The Matrix is one of my favorite movies of all time. The sequel to Blade Runner, I'm just like, I'm slashing it and hacking it and being super critical because the original, especially Director's Cut, is one of my favorites of all time. And that seems to be a consistent theme. Anytime a new Star Wars thing comes out, I'm hypercritical because those kind of movies made me who I am. So yeah, the new Blade Runner, great visuals, horrible story, didn't need to exist. If they wanted to do it, they should have done it better. That's my opinion.
All right.
All right, over to you, Gavin.
My top 3, or number 3. Well, I'm sure we've talked ad nauseum about it. So this is certainly, I'm not going to delve into the plot because, I mean, we all know it. My number 3 is Star Wars New Hope. For me, it's the childhood nostalgia, really, that it's one of these movies that I truth be told, I never did see it in the theater. When it was released in 1977, I was living in Quebec, and of course, with being born in Quebec, and with Quebec being the way it was, ne parle anglais, français, français, French only. So I don't remember ever going to the movies in Quebec, and so when I think it was the Super Channel or something like that. It was one of the pay-per-view channels that had like
Super Choice or First Choice or Super Channel.
One of those guys, right? And they were having a free weekend, and the big movie that they were basically broadcasting for a free weekend, and I think this was around 1980 something, 1979. I would have been about 7 or 8 years old. And they were advertising Star Wars as the big movie that was coming on there. Hadn't even been released on VHS yet. And I was asking my parents again and again and again, can we watch this? Can we watch this movie? I want to see Star Wars. Everyone's got Star Wars toys, I haven't seen it. So the weekend comes, and there are technical issues. I was one of the most disappointed, like 7 or 8 year old that ever existed in the history of the world. Perhaps maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but in my little mind, no one was more disappointed than me. So I had to wait until it was actually broadcast on TV. I think it was City TV or CTV, one of the main channels. And I was riveted to my chair. Even the commercial breaks, I didn't want to get up and pee because I was terrified I was going to miss anything. You know, I'm sure we all remember okay, and commercial break, and then you had a sibling down there. They were going. It was like, is it on yet? Not yet. Is it on yet? Not yet. It's on. It's on. Boom. And I terrified I was going to miss it. And even as like an 8-year-old, I'm sitting there watching the whole thing, spellbound. And when Luke was doing the Death Star trench run, and things were looking bad, Vader was on his tail, his wingmen were picked off. It's like, oh no, what's going to happen? Han Solo flies in with the Millennium Falcon. I jumped up and screamed so loud. Somebody from upstairs goes, "What the hell's going on down there?" It's Star Wars. This is the greatest thing ever. So, with everything that The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi gave, I mean, not to take away from that, they were all phenomenal movies in their own right. But A New Hope is just for me, it was just this magical first time experience. I'd never seen something like this where I actually was so invested in it. I was jumping up and screaming. It was just, it just hit me so hard that it just stayed with me for, like, even now. I'm getting excited thinking of the trench run.
Awesome.
That's my top 3.
So for me, Star Wars: A New Hope is in my top 20, but did not crack the top 10. But I remember, oh God, when we went to see the special edition in Toronto, freezing to death outside that theater, waiting for the doors to open and to see all the little tinkering that Lucas had done. And the revamped trench run and the revamped attack on the Death Star, to me, were the stuff that, I mean, those were the things that kind of needed to be fixed from the original Star Wars. I wish they had fixed Ben Kenobi's sword back then, but they didn't. They had to wait for the special edition to fix his sword. But they added the Jabba the Hutt sequence, which was just no.
Oh, Han Solo stepping on the tail.
And they made Greedo shot first and kind of dodged.
Shot first and then shot at the same time. And the shot.
That's why I still have this, because this is the only way I can prove that Han shot first.
Yes, I have that one. I have the special edition. I've got them on VHS and DVD.
I have that weird, that holograph widescreen edition box set. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
That was one we kept watching in the library at Sheridan all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, A New Hope is in my top 20 because, again, I mean, Star Wars, I think, changed all of our lives. I mean, when I look around the room and see things labeled with Star Wars on it, there's more than one. There's probably more than 20. I mean, I'm looking at.
I gotta say, based on your guys' movies, I don't know what your last 2 are going to be. I'm confused now.
I have suspicions what Troy's are and what yours are. Your 1 and 2. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Tune in next week, folks.
Indeed. So. Now, I know there had been planned to be an Adam Asks, but Troy was unable to secure an Adam Asks in time for our 50th episode. Maybe
you couldn't get the handcuff keys.
Yeah, maybe the straitjacket didn't. Maybe one of the buckles is frozen. Maybe for episode 51, we'll see how that goes.
Maybe Adam will ask, why wasn't I in episode 50? Damn it.
Why didn't you take the ball gag off? Jeez. I had a question.
Oh, Troy.
Yes. Anyways, I hope our listeners have enjoyed hearing us ramble endlessly. Again, as usual, please hit all our social media, or wait till it hits the YouTube, hit some comments. We will gladly answer any questions or any concerns. If you just want to say we suck, we can respond to that too. Probably with a no, you suck. So, just as a preview is what
Stupid neckbeards.
Yeah, stupid neckbeards hiding behind your keyboards. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed.
Basement.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. 50 plus episodes if you add all of the supplemental episodes, which I kind of want to do some more supplemental episodes because those are fun. Any thoughts from you guys you want to talk to the viewers about?
Go ahead, Gavin. I know you have lots to say.
Not this time. Drawn blank.
As for myself, I just know this has been a fun experiment. When Troy approached us to do this podcast way back when, like a year and so ago, way back, it was a lot of fun. This was back during weird COVID lockdown times and studios weren't functioning and you weren't talking to people. And it gave us an excuse to get back together and have a little chat. Like, it's been a long, long time since we actually met in person and had conversations. But the fact that we were able to jump back into this, and it feels like old times. It feels like 25 years ago, and we were
still sitting at the tables.
Yeah, still sitting at the tables in the freak pit.
I do have something that I want to say.
I know you did, Gavin. I was just filling time until you chimed in.
When WandaVision and The Mandalorian were starting to air, I had realized that my social circles in which I could talk to people about had kind of dwindled and vanished, based like with people who I could just call up or see in person at work or something like that and excitedly discuss it. And when COVID hit, that made things significantly worse because, well, I swear I did not see anyone but Amanda for like at least 4 months, 5 months.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. Well, they say 1 year in lockdown is equivalent to about living with someone for 5 years. So we managed to make it through. So I guess we're okay. But when when I see something in WandaVision that I'm like practically vibrating to talk to someone about, and I turn over and I look at Amanda, and Amanda just like, I don't know any of this stuff. I like the show, but you are nerding out way too much. And I'm like, but who am I going to nerd out to? And then Troy messaged me, and I was like, a podcast talking about nerdy shit? You son of a bitch! I'm in.
It's
so yeah. This has been.
Mare got me a mic because she was like, I seemed happier because I was able to geek out, not to her. Because it was the same thing. She was like, she's like, you've been talking for 15 minutes and I tuned out after the first 30 seconds because it didn't interest me. And I'm like,
tale as old as time.
Thanks, honey. I mean, thanks a lot. And she's like, no. I I'm sure whatever it is great for you and because you're very enthusiastic, but I don't understand like 100th of the references you're making. And so I lost interest and tuned you out a while back. I'm like, oh, thanks. Good try. So yeah, so when this started, she was so that's why Meredith got me the microphone and made sure I use it, because she even said the first couple of podcasts I sounded really hollow and tinny and far away. So that's why she made me get the mic. She didn't make me, but she got it for me and said, all right, now, use it. So I think I sound better these days than I did in the first couple of episodes.
So hollow and tinny? A little more full and vibrant.
Yes.
Yeah, ladies like that.
To entertain. So yeah, this has been a fun 50 so far. I'd gladly do another 50. Well, Gavin has
same.
Playing in the
yep. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and hopefully Troy will join us in this one, whether it's through editing or inserts or whatever producer magic he has. But
Let's have some magic.
Full quartet in here.
Is he using DaVinci Black Magic yet? Do you think?
I don't know.
We'll have to ask.
Sounds like he's doing some weird phone magic, but I don't know.
I don't know. So I think that's going to wrap up episode 50. I'd say tune in next week. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about yet. Maybe some
probably the same stuff we've been talking for 50 episodes about nerdy crap, chirping about shows, and woke casting and why I'm wrong, all that kind of stuff.
Someone's got to be
business as usual.
The other people are right, so we can't all be right.
Yeah,
if we're all right. We'd be like and it wouldn't work out.
I can't turn left.
That's why I can't
steal, eh?
That's why I can't race in NASCAR. I just can't keep turning left. Eventually, I'll make that right turn. There's a pileup on turn 4.
I can't help it. I'm right.
All 43 cars are in the accident. Guess we're going home, folks. So from there, I believe our last step is a collective goodbye. Can we do it? Do you think we can do it for episode 50?
I think we can pull it off as long as Gavin doesn't mess it up.
You ready, Gav? We'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1.
Collective goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's worse than our very first one. I really do.
Cordial.
Yay.
I just wait for episode 51. We'll have it. Don't worry, folks.
I pity the fools. All right.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same spider channel, may the force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.
Greetings, geeks. This is Mike, and we're getting the band back together.
Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Gavin. Rounding off the things is Troy, who is currently...
Exactly. So, Mike, what would you like to start off with?
Over to you, Troy. What's your top 3 movie of all time?
I would have never thought that would be on your top 3, Troy.
Oh, I knew it all along.
I had suspicions, but now that we know.